Welcome to the Super Sentai Brothers. This is episode 40 of A View to a Kakuranger. 40, Dave. 40 episodes of this show that we have done. Third season, 40 episodes. Bananas.
Dude, that always, for some reason, like 39, because this happens to me every year. 39 is like, oh, wow, we're really getting into, and then when we hit 40, which is literally like one episode later, it hits me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, 40, that means there's only 10 episodes left, which actually means there's 2.5 months left.
Yeah. But still, it definitely does feel like turning a corner.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, this is episode 40 of View to a Kakuranger, the internet's best and only podcast dedicated to Ninja Sentai Kakuranger. As previously discussed, every week we watch an episode of the show. We share our thoughts with you, the listeners. My name is Matt J. With me, as always, is my co-host and brother, Dave. Dave, how you doing today, bud?
I'm pretty well. Had a pretty good day. A long day, but a good day.
Nice, beautiful day.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Does not get much better here in Cleveland, Ohio. I know we said it last week, but it's only been like 2 days since we recorded last, and so the weather is still pretty much the same. Dave, today we are watching the aforementioned episode 40 of Ninja Sentai Kakuranger, the Heisei Fox Battle. Did I pronounce that wrong? Probably. Are we going to go forward with it anyway? Sure. There's really nothing I can do about it at this point. But before we get into that, Dave, shining in the heavens, there are 5 stars. What is our first star of the week?
So, Matt, our first star of the week is Baby Watch.
We interrupt your regular broadcast of the Super Sentai Brothers to bring you a breaking news update.
Baby Watch. So, Baby Watch this week, Matt, is that I'm alone with the babies because Beth is in Texas helping watch our nieces, and producer Mark's wife, Holly, was in town helping out for a little bit, but she had to go home. And those babies did not nap all day.
Oh.
And they took like a solid hour and a half to go to bed. And Beth isn't getting home for another day and a half. And I might die. So let's just watch Kakuranger, man.
Okay. Okay.
I love you guys, but I'm pretty tapped out.
Okay, well, in that case, we're going to take a break. We're watching episode 40, and we will be right back. Ninja! Okay, welcome back. So, we have just finished watching episode 40 of Ninja Sentai Kakuranger. I really like it. I really like this episode, and I like the monster for similar reasons that I liked last week's monster. But we'll get into that, of course, later in the episode. Starting off, we open our scene on there's like a dojo of sorts. Would you call that a dojo?
Yeah, man, I'm not totally sure. It is some sort of fancy, oldie-timey looking building.
It is either
it could be
a dojo.
Like, it could be any number of things.
It could be a shrine.
Could be a shrine. Could be a temple. I don't know. It's like, it's old and Japanese and like cool looking.
It could literally be the same one that they've gone to 6 times this season. Like, I don't know why it's never occurred to me that when they go up into the mountains to go visit a building that looks like that, it might always be the same one. And I don't think that it is every time. But I'm like, I would not be surprised if I had already seen 4 episodes of this show that took place at this same site.
Listen, man, if running theater has taught me anything, is that it's you do your best to acquire like a stock of things that you can use and reuse and reuse. And like, we love these shows, but these shows are produced on what I can only imagine is a pretty tight budget.
Well,
so if you've got like if you've got a good location, you probably use it. Half the show is shot in a quarry, so.
Because the thing is, it's not just a tight budget. It's a really tight schedule, right? Because they don't have a lot of time. They've got to make a new episode of this show pretty much every week.
Yeah. Do you actually, this is a good question. Do you know how far they work ahead? Like, are they already, maybe like halfway into the next year's season by the time they start airing the previous years? Like, or is it literally just like they're a week ahead at any given time? I feel like they've got to be farther ahead than that.
I assume that what is probably happening is that like halfway through the airing of one season, they start the prep work on season 2 and like writing and designing costumes and all that stuff. They probably have like 2 teams that work like back and forth,
Oh, yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
I think I have heard that before, although I might be conflating that with how Power Rangers is run these days. But then again, modern day Power Rangers is basically, like, not exactly, because I know they messed up Megaforce a lot, but was it Megaforce? Whichever one they pulled out of Gokaiger. They messed that one up pretty bad.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Anyway, those are more or less direct adaptations now. So it's not like the Power Rangers of old. So they probably operate a lot similarly. In fact, I think they film a lot of it at the same time as the Sentai. Like, they both go to New Zealand and film all the stuff.
Huh. Wow. Well, that's kind of cool, actually, that they exist. This has nothing to do with this episode, which we should actually probably start talking about.
At some point, yeah. I mean, you did say you were very tired.
Yeah. So where does this episode... Oh, yeah. So they're up in this shrine dojo thing, and it's a Tsuruhime, and there's a little girl. And we see this fox statue. And Tsuruhime and the little girl are fighting. Not like fighting. They're training fighting.
Yeah. Tsuruhime is training this little girl.
Yeah.
I have in my notes
we never actually...
Because we get her name eventually, but originally I was just calling her Karate Kid. But not like that Karate Kid. But also not the other Karate Kid, because even though it's a girl, it's definitely not young Hilary Swank, which is probably for the best.
It is also not Kung Fu Kid, which is what that Jaden Smith movie should have been called. I'm pretty sure I've talked about this before.
I'm almost certain we have.
I feel like I must have. So anyways, so there is a fox statue there
An evil
in
fox
front
statue.
of this. Well, we don't know. It's just a fox statue at first.
You
and then
I know that it's
and then
an
the
evil
eyes
fox
glow.
Statue. And the way that we know it's an evil fox statue, I mean, the eyes do glow, but before that, you know it's an evil statue because it's obviously a prop statue. Like, it's not a statue that was already there. Like, this is something that was made for the show. And when they do
very
that,
clearly,
you can be pretty sure that it's going to be evil.
It's definitely styrofoam, and it is definitely not an actual fox statue.
Although, I mean, okay. It is, though, right? I mean, it is a fox statue. It's a bad one. It's a bad one made out of styrofoam, but they made a fox statue.
Yeah, it is technically it is a fox statue. That's true. It's not an official fox. I don't know, man. So the eyes on this stupid statue glow. This eyes glow, and it turns around, and it like looks at them, and they're done training for the day, which is great. And it just said, I don't know. We don't know who this kid is. They don't introduce her. She's just training with Tsuruhime. And it turns out she's got a brother. And that brother is missing. His name is Shinichi.
And she's surprisingly chill about this.
Yeah, astonishingly. Tsuruhime just is like, oh, hey, so is your brother still missing? And she's like, yeah, I'm going to find him, though.
Don't worry about it. Like it's definitely all good, but my little brother, and by the way, this girl is maybe 10, so her little brother is probably 8 max.
So, yeah, they're super chill about it, and then they just leave. They leave, that's fine. So we've got kind of the frame story. There's this girl, and she's learning martial arts from Tsuruhime, and her brother's missing. So the fox statue, the eyes glow again, and then like we get like an animated waving tail, and it turns into, obviously, a 9-tailed fox demon. My only problem with this is I definitely only counted 6 tails. Like, I paused and I looked again, and there were 4 tails coming out the back, and then there were like 2 that maybe could have been tails that seemed to be wrapped around her. But that's still only 6.
She's wearing like some as a scarf, I think, and then some are kind of like tucked back behind her legs. But like
I don't know.
Like throughout the episode, the number of tails will shift based on the scene.
So
like based on how active she needs to be in the scene.
She drops or gains tails. So the next scene is we see this little Sakuruku is this girl's Sakurako.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Sakurako.
Sakurako is this girl. Yeah, is this little girl's name.
By the way,
and we see her.
Before we move on from this statue turning into the nine-tailed kitsune, can we describe her look for a second?
Yeah,
because she is definitely like her fox like face mask is actually very like cool. It's got a good style to it. It's very well sculpted.
Yeah, and then the rest of her, she's wearing like a weird like one-piece leather bathing suit, but with like thigh highs and then long gloves as well.
And she's kind of dressed like old school like Emma Frost White Queen.
Oh yeah,
like original flavor White Queen.
But it's like a one piece rather than like a corset and like a bikini. But yes, that's a pretty accurate thing.
I think that, Dave, perhaps she is meant to appear to be foxy.
This has been the Super Sentai Brothers, and we will see you next week. We'll see you next week.
For the greatest show
because this episode is over for the greatest show on earth. So we see this little girl walking home, and first of all, she's amazing because she's just sort of like rolling around with this spear. Like Tsuruhime did not take the spear thing with her. This is just the little girl's spear sword, and she's taking it home. So she's just rolling home with the spear sword. And she hears this sort of howling, like yippee howling.
It's a very weird sound. It sounds like a wolf swallowed an owl, and the owl is calling out from inside the wolf while the wolf is howling?
Yeah, but it's a person making the noise, and so it actually is sort of creepy.
Yes. The other thing it sounds like is when anytime everyone ever does a chop in the WWE and everyone does the Ric Flair woo all at the same time. Like, that is the sound you're kind of hearing here.
Yeah, but less energetic. Like, how to say, just in the TV show, it's sort of like, oh, that's a weird noise that they're making. But if I were sitting in this room recording, Matt, and I listened out the window and I just saw someone walking down the street and they were just making this noise, because the point is they don't make the noise just once. They just kind of keep making it. If a dude was just walking down the street making this noise, I would straight call the police.
Oh yeah. No, it's not. That's not anything that you want to be part of your scene whatsoever.
So what we see is that Sakurako, that sounds, anyways, that sounds like an alcohol of some sort. Anyways, so she sort of like creeps around and she sort of is trying to figure out what's going on. And what it is that it's Dorodoros with kitsune masks. And kitsune, and then we see the actual kitsune herself, like the nine-tailed fox demon. And she's always doing this weird little dance. And I'm having trouble trying to figure out how to describe it. She's sort of hopping back and forth from one foot to another, and her hands are sort of like held out like claws, but not like mean claws.
She's kind of
like sexy
doing
claws.
She's kind of doing like the Bangles walk like an Egyptian a little bit, but both hands are up and supposed to like one up and one back.
Yeah, but she's sort of alternating which hand is up, and she's making this little noise, and then Sakurako sees the kitsune, and that's kind of it. She's like, nine-tailed fox. That's super weird. And she bolts. So from there we go to Nekomaru, and we find out that it's not just Shinichi that has been kidnapped. Like, a number of kids have been kidnapped.
Yeah, because when Tsuruhime returns, she checks in with Saizo, and is like, hey, Saizo, what's the news? And Saizo's like, well, the news is that more children are kidnapped, so I guess we should probably do something about this.
Yeah, and then Sasuke, he says, yeah, I heard it was guys in fox masks.
Just dudes in masks.
Right, which, again, he is like... If he had said definitively, yes, I think it was the work of yokai, and he was like sort of chill about it, it would make a lot more sense, because that's the universe that they live in. Like, oh, there was a problem, it's probably yokai. He just says, yeah, I just heard it was guys in fox masks. That's way weirder.
Yes, it is.
If it's literally just people in fox masks kidnapping children, like, that's very strange.
But I do like the fact that the Kakurangers are like, well, whether or not it is yokai, children are being kidnapped, so we should probably go hunt down whoever these dudes are and just like use our ninja magic on them until they stop.
Right, like we're still going to deal with it. But as he's saying this, we, the audience, get like an overlay of what are clearly Dorodoros in fox masks kidnapping children. So
I don't know if this is a piece of like a flashback that Sasuke was not there for but heard about and is describing.
Maybe, but he says it's just guys, and it's clearly Dorodoros. So I think maybe this is just supposed to be dramatic irony. We, the audience, know what's happening, even if the Rangers don't.
I believe that.
But we find out is that the kids they were kidnapped and that they were held for ransom. But even when the ransom money was delivered, the kids were not returned.
Right, which the Kakurangers are furious about. Like, they were already mad about the kidnapping, but the fact that the kidnappers did not operate in good faith is like, that is what pushes it over the edge.
Somehow even worse. So Sakuraku arrives, and she's like, oh my gosh, Tsuruhime, I saw like a nine-tailed fox. Like, this is crazy. You've got to come with me. So Tsuruhime goes with her. They go, and they're sort of hiding, and they see who it is, and Tsuruhime says, obviously, like, she recognizes it. She says, oh my gosh, this is really bad. That's the yokai Nine-Tails Fox Demon, originally from China or India, which is what they said, which I didn't know, but cool. Yeah. And she just did all sorts of evil stuff there.
Like
and now she's in the city. Right. And now she's in the city doing evil again. And Tsuruhime concludes, like, that's probably who took Shinichi, which, like, obviously.
Right. And then Sakurako is like, oh, well, let's go find her and I will help you, like, defeat this evil. And, like, she holds up her, like, wooden staff and is like, yeah, let's go do this thing. I've been training, right? Let's go use my new training to go, like, punch this magical demon in the mouth.
Tsuruhime, obviously bursting with pride, still says, no, it's too dangerous. You gotta be, like, I'll take care of it. You stay here. And she says, yeah, but no, I really do want to help, and you taught me to use this spear sword, like, I'm gonna help. And Tsuruhime says, no, seriously, you can't. But you're so brave, I'm super impressed. Here's a present that I just happen to have on me. It's a hair clip. And so she just puts this hair clip in Sakuruku's hair.
And as she's doing this, rain starts to fall. And they're like, oh, rain. We should, like, run and, like, get it under some cover. Like, this came out of nowhere. We need to go to stay dry. So they run and they get under some cover. And Tsuruhime is like, this is a very strange rain. And then she has a realization and says, this is a sun shower. And before they say what they're talking about, the scene changes. And you see all of the other 4 Kakurangers who had been around, like, trying to find these fox dudes. And they also got caught out in the rain. And they also had to meet up under, like, a bridge overpass thing.
And what does it change to? It changes to the other 4 Rangers experiencing the same thing. They are also getting rained on, but it's sunny. And they're like, oh, it's a sun shower. A fox must be getting married. This I just have to assume is like some piece of Japanese folklore. And, like, I didn't.
And what I love about this is that Jiraiya, because, like, Jiraiya is not from Japan, right? And so when they all say, like, oh, it's a sun shower, and when it's raining and the sun is out, that means a fox is getting married. Jiraiya's response is my response, which is, what?
Huh? Yeah, she is also. Jiraiya is also very confused.
Yeah,
but
and Sasuke's like, no, like, this is obviously a sign. And also, here is a new piece of information that is given to us. Like, the children who have vanished, some of them ran away, and before they ran away, they all talked about going to see a fox's wedding.
Yes. So, we flip from there, and we see Sakurako running around by herself, I guess. And she sees a bunch of dudes in fox masks, and they're carrying, like, a palanquin, kind of, and there's, like, a lady fox who's going to... It's like a wedding party. It's like a wedding procession.
Yeah, these are, like...
they're all in these...
These are still the Dorodoros, but they no longer look like Dorodos. They've still got the same fox masks, but now they have, like, like old school, like traditional, like Japanese robes on.
Yeah, and they're stopping every couple of steps to all sort of turn to one side. Like everybody turns to one side, and they all do like a little like hop up, and they make that same like whoo noise. And they're all doing it in unison, and it's weirdly creepy.
Yes. But like not overtly sinister, but definitely creepy.
Yeah, just creepy because it's very weird.
Yeah, so we cut to the nine-tailed kitsune, who is up in like the boardroom of this office building, watching this happen in like this crystal ball that she has. Well, it's not a crystal ball. It's one of those things from Spencer's Gifts where like you put your hand on it and like the electricity beam like comes and touches your fingers.
Yes, yeah. Those things are super cool. I don't totally know how they work, but I love them.
It was also the things that were used as the control units, like in the cockpits of the Ranger Zords. Not Zords. The the magical chi beasts. Dude, it's been a couple of years. I do not remember all the proper names from that show.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
So she's watching and she's like, okay, so here's what I'm doing. And she's explaining the plan to 0 people. I mean, for us, but there are no other people in the room. She's like, I know that kids love like folk tales and fairy tales and stuff. And all these kids obviously know this story because when a sun shower happens, a fox is getting married. So my plan is to like use their inherent love of these like weird fairy stories to trick them into like running away with me, and then I kidnap them. And it was at this moment that I realized like, oh, because you know how a lot of times you watch these shows and kids fall for stuff and you're like, kid, come on, how did you fall for that stupid kidnapping plot? Like, this is clearly a monster who is coming to take you away. But in this one episode, I'm like, oh yeah, they'd have got me. They would have 100% got me with this one. Like, preying on your love of fairy tales to like trick you into watching like this cool thing where a fox is getting married. Like, yes, 8-year-old Matt would have absolutely run into a field to go see that.
Yeah, without question. Well, because, see, 8 years old is just the right amount of time. Because if you get older than that, you realize that you never go with whoever it is. Like, never trust a fairy. It's a terrible plan. But 8 years old, you're still like, nah, I want to see that fox wedding, though.
Yeah.
And the best part is that she kind of calls the kids. She's like, these kids are so dumb. I can't believe they're falling for this, which is sort of amazing.
And she has a little flashback to when she was tricking... what was the brother's name? Shinichi?
Yeah, Shinichi.
And by the way, what is interesting in this flashback, because it's the first time we see her like non-yokai form, like her human form. And her human form is a much older lady than her yokai form like appears to be. Which I think is a very interesting like character design note. I think it's very cool.
Yeah. Okay. So we go from there. We see the wedding procession. We're back to the wedding procession, and Tsuruhime is there now. She's sort of like run up, and she's with Sakurako seeing this whole thing.
No. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but what happens is Sakurako, and I only remember this because I wrote it down because I really liked it. She does not get suckered in by this. She's like, oh, I remember my brother was saying something about a fox's wedding. This is clearly like an evil thing that is kidnapping children. I need to leave and like go find help. And like she runs to go get Tsuruhime and bring her back.
Oh, okay.
I think it's very clever, especially because like in that last scene, Kitsune was like, aha, these stupid kids, I get them every time. But this little kid is a very good kid.
No, I must have missed that. So
hey,
what
listen,
we see is
we have gone over the fact that you have been having a day. I will forgive you missing some of the finer details of this episode of Kakuranger.
So it's Tsuruhime and Sakurako, and they are seeing this wedding procession going by. And what we see, they miss it, is that the wedding procession kind of goes down and they turn into this tunnel, and then as soon as they get in there, they disappear. And Tsuruhime and Sakurako follow, and then they get in there, and obviously there's nothing there. They're sort of like weirded out. They're trying to figure out what's going on. And then they see glowing eyes in the dark. But they're not Dorodoro eyes. Dorodoros, by the way, just have like weird bubble eyes, like weird black empty space eyes, but they're all different shapes. They sort of look like, if you've ever seen, oh crud, Spirited Away. No. Princess Mononoke. Sorry. Have you ever seen Princess Mononoke, like the little tree spirits with like the weird faces? That's kind of what they look like.
Yeah, sort of. And they also have like other copies of those faces, like in other places on their bodies.
Yes.
But these are not those eyes. These are very definitely like the red sort of like swept up pointed eyes from the Kitsune masks, but like giant and glowing in the darkness. So they flash and you hear that same like yipping sound again. And all of a sudden the Dorodoros reappear wearing the Kitsune masks. And now they are fighting Tsuruhime and Sakurako. And when I say they're fighting both of them, because Sakurako still has that stick, and she is absolutely fighting these Dorodoros, because this kid is amazing.
Yeah, that was one of the best moments of this whole thing, is that Tsuruhime is wrecking these Dorodoros, and so is Sakurako.
Yeah. Ultimately, Sakurako gets grabbed, and like a Dorodoro runs away with her, which makes sense. Like she is a rad little kid, but like by this point, Tsuruhime has like super Hengate and is shooting people with like her magic ninja laser gun, and Sakurako had a stick. So eventually Sakurako does get grabbed.
Right. So she gets got, and they kind of run away with her. Right as this is happening, the other rangers arrive. They say, Tsuruhime, like, we've got this. You go chase Sakurako. Like, you go rescue her. But at this point, she's already gone. So the next scene is just Tsuruhime running around trying to find Sakurako. And she kind of comes around a corner and looks down like a set of open stairs, and she sees Sakurako lying on the ground unconscious. She's like, oh my gosh, oh no, what has happened? Let me go check this out. So she runs down and like is trying to wake Sakurako up.
Right. And then from under Sakurako's like unconscious / lifeless body, a big foxtail comes out and like swings around and wraps around Tsuruhime. And Sakurako, that isn't Sakurako. Like, Kitsune is still a trickster spirit, and she has made herself look like Sakurako to like draw her Tsuruhime in, and now she has trapped her.
Yeah. So that was a pretty...
Oh, and she knocks her out in the creepiest way possible by putting a Kitsune mask on her, and then she just like stops moving and falls over.
Oh yeah, that was very weird. So we see then Sakurako she has been captured by the Dorodoros, and they have put her in a room with all of the other kidnapped children.
Yes.
We flip from there to Daimyo's evil house. And Daimyo is actually super impressed. He says, wow, you managed to kidnap Tsuruhime. Great job. Kitsune says, yes, and I would like money as a reward. Daimyo says, sure, fine. And so somebody, like a Doro, brings out a pile full of money, and then Kitsune looks at it and she says, wait, is this fake money? I think it's just leaves, and then sort of like an image, there's like a mirage-y image shift, and it is leaves, but then it turns back into money, and she says, well, it really looks like money, so good enough. So I'm not sure if Daimyo is actually giving her money, or if he is using a classic sort of fairy trick on Kitsune, but she doesn't care because she figures it'll trick everybody else too?
Yeah, it's either that or Kitsune is looking at it and imagining what it would look like if it were leaves.
Yeah, it's not really...
Either way, like one or both of them are willing to like swindle each other and or like the people at large with real or potentially fake money. Listen, somebody gets paid. She's very happy. She loves money. If you remember from earlier, she got all that ransom money, but she did not give it up. Like, she did not give the kids up. She just needs to get more and more money.
Yes. We will find out why later.
And
then there's a weird little moment where Daimyo's like, He's like, oh man, this is going to be so good. I'm going to kill Tsuruhime with my own hands. And then we get what is, I guess, Daimau's like little daydream. It's shot in black and white, and it is just Tsuruhime gets dragged in front of him, and he brandishes his like crazy yokai claws, and then he stabs her in the stomach. And she dies.
Yeah, it's a fun little scene to get just tossed in the middle of this episode. And then the camera cuts back to color, and Daimao is like, yes, bring her here right now. I'm going to kill. It's going to be great.
Yeah. So we don't see that, thankfully. We flip from there, and we just see some Doros hanging out on the street. Like, they're not doing anything. It looks as though they're guarding something, but they're not by anything.
Yeah, they're not actively guarding anything. Or if they are, it's like they are guarding a secret door, but they're doing it in a very bad way by just standing next to it. In any case, they look over and they see a bunch of not people wearing the kitsune masks, but just the kitsune masks themselves. People like holding them, sticking them around corners and like up from behind things. And they're hearing like that yipping, like fox bark. And they, because they are dumb Dorodoros, are like, oh, I'm going to go check this out. You will never guess what they find there.
It's Kakurangers.
Yes, it is 4 Kakurangers, and they punch a bunch of Doros, and that is it for those dudes.
Right, and then so they run, and then the next thing we see is that Rangers running into the room where all the kidnapped kids are. They're like, hey, we're the Kakurangers. We're here to save you. And Sakuraku is like, wow, that's amazing. Like, super great. Don't get me wrong. How did you know where we were, though? And Sasuke says, oh, well, Tsuruhime low-jacked you.
Yeah, like there is a homing beacon in this hairband she gave you.
So I appreciate there's a couple of great things about this. Because if you recall, the reason Tsuruhime gave her this hairpiece, and she said, hair clip, and she said, oh, you're so brave, like, I'm so impressed with you, that's so great. Here, take this present. And so I think Tsuruhime looks at this little girl and says, no, this little girl is not going to stay out of trouble. Like, guaranteed, she is going to get up in the mix.
Oh, definitely. And so 100%.
Right, so I am just going to deal with this problem sort of before it starts and make sure that I have a way to get in touch with you.
Yeah.
So we go from there back to the evil house. I'm sorry, it's not the evil house. It's the
evil office building.
It's the evil office building. It's Kitsune's penthouse. We see Tsuruhime, she's tied up, and Kitsune just says, so, do you like my fancy room?
You know,
I've bought and then she says,
like people say to each other.
Right. And she says, I bought this whole building. Like, I own the whole building. And the reason is because Lord Daimao is going to win, and then we're going to have to be hosting yokai from, like, all over the world.
Yeah, people are going to, like, come and visit. And so I need to buy this building and a bunch of other buildings to, like... This whole thing is a very complicated real estate scheme.
Yeah.
I love this, and I really love it for, like, the same reason that I loved last week's episode. Because at this point, the yokai are just assuming, like, well, yeah, sure. Like, Daimao's back. Like, the Kakurangers lost. Daimao's back. We haven't killed them yet,
game
but
over.
Daimao has already won and will rule this world in, like, I don't know, a couple of weeks. So we need to just start preparing. We need to build amusement parks and buy office buildings. You know, the things that you plan to do right after world domination.
Yeah, it's almost as though owning a bunch of hotels just does something to your brain.
Sure, you just get a bunch of money and you buy a bunch of really tall buildings. Maybe you slap your name on them. I don't know.
Right.
Classic villain moves.
Classic villain move.
So as she is talking about her evil scheme, Tsuruhime has, like, pulled her feet sort of, like, under her skirt, because she's sort of, like, sitting on the ground. So she's, like, sort of secretly working at her ropes and, like, getting herself untied.
Right. And so she kind of, like, Kitsune is monologuing effectively, and then finally Tsuruhime sort of, like, jumps up, and Kitsune is like, how did you get free? And she's like, I was free the whole time. I got kidnapped on purpose to discover your evil plan. Like, gotcha. And Kitsune says, no, I'm the trickster. Like, she's furious because she is the trickster spirit.
Like, how dare you? This is my thing.
Yeah. So the other Rangers arrive, and they, like, burst through the door. And Kitsune grabs her crystal ball thing, and she throws it at Tsuruhime. And Tsuruhime catches it, and then just says, oh no, it's a bomb, and throws it away from her. And then we pop to outside, and we see the entire building explode.
Yes, and this item, pound for pound, must be the most powerful thing in this entire series. Because it is the size of a basketball, and it destroys a building.
Right. And then we get a quick shot of the Kakurangers just falling through the air. And then they're on the ground and they're fine. Which I'm actually totally okay with because they're ninja.
They're ninja, they land.
And everybody knows, ninja can fall from any distance safely. That's totally, it's like a level 17 monk power or something. Like, they're fine. So
they start
Kitsune says,
they start to square off as though this is going to be like a regular punch fight.
Yeah. And Kitsune just says, I will show you my true power. And she does like a flamethrower breath, which seems weird to start with, but whatever.
Okay, real quick.
Then
I hate to interrupt you, Dave. You know how I got that book from friend of the show, Nick Douglas?
Yeah.
I was reading about Kitsune after I finished this episode, and apparently, like, a lot of Kitsune do this thing called Foxfire, where they, like, summon these sort of, like, will-o'-the-wisp things. And so I think
this is not a...
Yeah, this is a very specific, like, they did this right. Like, here is a fox, she's breathing fire, and they're going into, like, this weird, like, world of illusion thing.
Okay, well, that makes me much more into it. I just assumed that she had, like... I mean, I got as far as, like, oh, she's a trickster spirit, she's got illusion powers, but I dig that it is specifically fire-oriented. That's a pretty neat thing.
Yeah.
So... what this is that it's their rangers are in darkness and they are sort of surrounded by fire
and tails
and the tails are sort of like whipping in from off screen to kind of like grab them and throw them around and kind of, just sort of like mess with them.
Yeah, like this scene is spooky enough, but if you imagine this is like something from like an anime, this would be like a real spook fest.
Yeah, like doing it live action kind of doesn't totally do it justice, but it is a pretty neat scene.
Oh, absolutely. Now, here is an amazing thing that just kind of gets glossed over. Like, it happens and then it's done. And they don't really reference it again. But Kitsune has, what is it? Tsuruhime and Seikai, I think, like, wrapped up in some tails. And she pulls out just, like, a shotgun. Just, like, a big shotgun.
Yeah.
And then she pulls two, like, tubes of lipstick off of what I, at this point, realize is, like, a bandolier of lipstick shotgun shells that are her belt. And she loads these lipstick bullets into this gun and just shoots them with a gun. It's very good.
She even says, like, I am going to take you out with a barrage of lipstick bullets.
I love it.
I just...
And what I love about it... I
sort of love it.
Is, okay, every week, we watch this show. And every week, I take detailed notes on the plot of this show. Like, scene for scene, moment by moment, I write down what happens in this show. I have been doing it for... We must be at 150 episodes by now, right? If not yet, like, we're close, right?
Yeah, we're getting close.
So, you would imagine that me, just, like, through the act of copying down the plot onto paper of 150, approximately, episodes of Super Sentai shows, that I could, without watching one, just sort of put one together, right? Like, you would imagine that. That I would have just, like, absorbed some of it by osmosis. But at no point, if you had put a piece of paper and a pencil in front of me and say, like, what do you think you're going to do with this Kitsune deal? Like, at no point in my life would I have said, like, oh, obviously she has a shotgun and the bullets are lipstick. Like, why would you ever do anything else? That's the right call. I mean, it is the right call. But that's what I love about this show is that, like, it's still, I am unable to anticipate it.
There is something beautiful about just never really truly knowing what's coming around the bend.
I feel like that's a big part of any sort of important, love relationship. It's just keeping a little bit of mystery.
You gotta keep it. Yeah, you gotta keep it fresh, man. And so, as she gets a couple of shots off, and then Tsuruhime says, "We have to break her yojutsu."
Oh yeah. Speaking of keeping it fresh, here's another new slice for you.
Yup, and then they all just throw their swords together and they say, Kakuremaru beam! And it glows blue and a beam of blue light shoots out from their joined swords and just zaps Kitsune, and that breaks the spell.
Yeah, and it's so amazing because you have these two really cool moves that you've never seen or guessed before right after the other. And then you get you get Kakure Ball. There's no good way to introduce this to the conversation, but that is what happens next.
I hate Kakuranger Ball.
I used to like it. I used to like Kakure Ball. I feel like at this point in the show, it just feels so weird and like they should have gotten rid of it a long time ago.
Yeah.
Like it's okay to use Kakuranger Ball in episode 15, right?
Yeah, is that it keeps coming back. Like they keep using this stupid thing. It's like their very first initial superpower. Like I don't know why this dumb thing is still around.
I think it's gotta be, and I think we've referenced this before, it's gotta be because Kakuranger Ball is like a callback to the very first season. And I don't even think that Kakuranger was an anniversary season, but this move is definitely something from Go Ranger, except they used a soccer ball instead of a football, which if you're not in America, that sentence probably sounded weird, but and so I think that they kept that around because it's this series callback. But other than that, it's just, at this point, I get rid of it. Please. There's only 11 episodes of this show left. Please do not continue to put it in the end game episodes.
Yeah, that would be really nice if we didn't have to see this dumb thing anymore. So,
but they do it, and it hits, and that drives Kitsune into going giant.
Yeah, so then from there, you know how we were just talking about how you can't always write this show? Sometimes you can write it without watching, because here's what happens. Ninja Man appears, so she goes giant. Ninja Man appears, he fights her for a hot second, she calls him a novice. He gets super angry. He turns into Samurai Man. It would be nice, just sidebar, it would be cool if Ninja Man had some actual ninja powers.
Well, you know what's crazy is the first time he transformed into Samurai Man, he said that Samurai Man was his true form.
Yeah.
So
which historically speaking, I think is semi-accurate.
Well, yeah, okay.
But
now we do get Ninja Man doing ninja stuff when he's human-sized. If you remember him,
he does do that.
Around and
he can shrink and stuff, which is cool. But anyways, so he turns into Samurai Man, and then they summon the God Beasts, and they form Kakure Daishogun, and then they immediately join with Super Samaru and form Super Kakure Daishogun, and then Samurai Man does the Rage Bomber, and they do the Iron Flying Fist finish, and they kill Kitsune, and that's it. I did love her final words, though, which were, I wanted to live and deceive more humans.
She just needs it so much. She knows what she's good at, and she knows what she loves. And I can respect that in an evil nine-tailed demon.
I think you can respect it in anybody, to be honest.
Yeah. So we cut to the end scene of the episode. They are back at the crepe trop. Children are all safe, and now are being fed delicious crepes.
Yeah. And hooray. And so as they are hanging out by the crepe trop, they just... all of a sudden it starts raining and they're like, oh man, it's another sun shower. Another fox must be getting married. Crazy. And Seikai despite having just defeated Kitsune the Nine-Tailed Fox Demon, is like, oh, like, yeah, let's go check that out. I've always wanted to see a Kitsune wedding. That's going to be super cool.
Well, because not all Kitsune are evil. Like, they're tricksy, but they're not always evil. So maybe he's like, we dealt with the bad one. And like, oh, when I was a kid, I always wanted to see this. And also, Seikai is kind of dumb.
Right. And so they are about to kind of run and go sort of check this thing out, and they walk out, and it's not actually that. It is just Jiraiya, and he is up on top of the crepe truck, and he has like a watering can.
Yeah, and he's just like splashing water,
which
like
does
pouring
not
it over
seem
the
as
thing.
though it should be able to produce enough water to convince anybody that's raining.
Ninja magic. I know that producing water magically is Saizo's thing, but you know, they're cross-training a bit. So they all look up at Jiraiya, and he does like a dumb little version of the fox dance from earlier, and they all laugh, and that's the end of the episode.
Yep, that's it.
But it's not the end of our episode, Dave, because first we need to decide how the nine-tailed kitsune fares in the creature Royale.
Well, I gotta say, I dig her plan.
Mm-hmm. I love anybody with a plan that isn't just like kill the heroes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I dig her plan. I dig her look, with the exception of the fact that she doesn't have enough tails. That sort of bothers me.
Like the design's good, the episode's good, her plot is good, she pulls it off well. She has an exploding crystal ball, which is very fun. She has lipstick bullets, Dave.
Yeah, I think really the only thing that I have against her is that she herself is not, like, she's not super, like, fascinating. You know what I mean? Like, she's not interesting and crazy in the same way that, like, God Noodle is.
Yeah.
Or Gali Sensei. Or the Hungry Wolf Demon. But, okay, Matt, I'm just going to throw it out. Is she cooler than the apartment building dimension?
Yes, I think that she is cooler than the apartment building dimension. I think she is cooler. See, up there, I think she's cooler than Kabuki Boy. I think she's cooler than Dr. Yagami. Next up is Key Clown, and that's where we start to get into the territory where I'm not sure.
Yeah, man, I dig her, but she's not a bowler hat, rollerblade, doll animator. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, she's not. She's no Key Clown, I'm afraid. Which I gotta say, man, Key Clown, I am pretty astonished, is still at spot number 14 and is literally, I think, the second monster that ever we reviewed. Is that right? He's from like episode 2.
Early on. I forget exactly. Like, he was early enough in the series that like all of the Dire Rangers were still super irresponsible all the time.
Yeah. Okay, well, I would say, yeah, not as cool as the Key Clown, but cooler than Dr. Yagami? Man, I don't know. Dr. Yagami is pretty great.
Okay. Now, that's a good point, because the Nine-Tailed Kitsune...
He's in a bunch of episodes. He's got like a real specific thing that he does. He's just like bolting drill arms onto other crazy monsters. Like, this show would be better if Dr. Yagami were still around. Like, instead of giantism, if what they did is like activate Yagami implants and like just like drills popped out or whatever, that would be cool and fun.
Oh man, that would be cool and fun.
Yeah, right? So I think not as cooler as Dr. Yagami. Kabuki Boy, that's a tough one. Kabuki Boy's plan is so good. I know we keep coming back to it, but like the fact that he just possesses he kidnaps a whole bunch of different fighters, including a crazy battle bot, and possesses them in sequence to fight the Rangers.
It's a boss rush. It's a boss rush in an episode of Super Sentai, and it's very good.
That's inspired, man.
Okay. I think sometimes I forget how good Kabuki Boy is. Let's drop it right under Kabuki Boy, but above apartment building dimension. I know you love apartment building dimension. But if you really think about it, the nine-tailed Kitsune could totally destroy apartment building dimension just by throwing her crystal ball at it.
Done. No problem.
So that drops her in the list at number, 17?
17. And that is going to do it for us, man.
Yeah, that is going to do it for another episode of A View to a Kakuranger. Before we finish up here, I'd like to remind you all you can email the show at supersentaibrothers@gmail.com. You want to get any updates on future episodes or check out the things that we're talking about on Twitter, we are at Super Sentai Bros. If you like the show, and boy, I hope you do, please remember that shining in the iTunes review section, there are 5 stars. Please rate, review, and subscribe on there. That's what's going to help new people find the show. If you want to find any of the other great Retrograde Orbit Radio shows, you can find them all at retrogradeorbitradio.com. Once again, we are the Super Sentai Brothers. I'm Matt.
I'm Dave.
And we'll see you next week for the greatest show on Earth.